Chelsea versus Leicester tactical preview. This is essentially the team that I think we might see. Gonna get straight into this video. We haven't done a tactical preview in a few weeks because of the international break, but thankfully Chelsea is back and we are back into the action against Enzo Maresca's ex-team. And it's going to be an interesting one because I think it's going to be one of those games where individual battles is where you're going to win this game. I think they're going to be up for it. I think this for them is a bit of a cup final. I think Maresca leaving, they've still got sort of imprints of his team from when I've done the analysis to watch them. They've still got a few sort of pressing details that still look a little bit Maresca-esque that he was teaching last season. In possession, they're still trying to form those 3-2-5s at times. It's maybe a little bit less frequent than it was under Maresca, but they are still doing it. If we have a quick look at the stats here, I'm going to quickly read them out, and I'll try and flash them up on screen as well. We have Leicester are 12th in the league for possession percentage, 47.1%. So that's 12th most in the league. They also have the 18th most shots, joint 19th with Southampton, with 10.3 per game. The only team having less shots per game than Leicester this season is Ipswich with 9.8. They have, however, scored 14 goals, which is more than Southampton and Ipswich, who are both below them, and more than Everton, who's sitting 15th, a couple more than Newcastle and West Ham as well, and even 2 more than Manchester United, which is, of course, interesting, given Amorim's first weekend in the Premier League is coming up. The other one I just wanted to quickly touch on is their shots per game conceded per 90, which is the second most in the league with 17.7. The only team conceding more shots per game than Leicester is Brentford with 18.5. So that is an interesting one because they are giving up a lot of shots. So their pressing structure that we're going to speak about a little bit today clearly isn't sort of keeping teams out and shutting them out from at least getting their shots off. So that's that spoken about. We've got the stats out of the way. How are Chelsea going to line up? Now, obviously, Reece James is now injured. Massive shame. Just want to touch on that really quickly. Huge shame for Reece to be out. Gusto, in my opinion, I think he's been getting a lot of unfair hate. Go check out my other videos on the channel to sort of give that sort of explanation of why I think Gusto's actually been quite good. But Reece James is out. Very, very sad for him. Really unfortunate with his injury issues, and I really hope he can get back to full fitness at some point and the luck just changes onto his side. But for now, we move ahead with Malo Gusto continuing to play, and I think that's a good thing for Maresca in terms of Maresca is really a good fan. He's a big fan of Gusto, so he's not going to care about that. And we saw that against Arsenal. We started Gusto in that game. I think as a tactical weapon, Gusto is a big part of this Chelsea team. And again, go check out the other videos on my channel for that. I've set up sort of a broad 4-4-2 from Leicester on this. And again, throughout this video, I'll try and flash up a few examples. That's the word I'm looking for. Examples of Leicester's press, mainly against Arsenal, because it's a similar sort of team in terms of stature as to how Leicester are probably going to press Chelsea in terms of how much they want to control the game, how passive they want to be on the ball, etc., etc. The difference is, and what I've found is the best spaces in this game are going to be here and here. What Leicester tend to do is, again, this is a bit of a Maresca trait from last season, and some teams are doing it anyway, but these wingers tend to drop off, at least one of them, if not both, and cover this area of the pitch, really looking to make this area as tight-knit as possible, stop the access into these two players here, and force that ball wide, okay? And because they're so passive and they often follow inside at times, rather than these two players, which are going to be man-marked by the central midfielders, the pivot players, these wingers are more likely to follow these pocket players, which then leaves big gaps with these two axes here, okay? Now, the interesting part of this is going to be, again, it's going to be Gusto, because during the inverting process, and that rotation in general, what you could see is, and Maresca spoke about this in a TNT video, so do go and check that out, because that TNT video that Maresca did explaining things to do with sort of what he's doing at Chelsea at the minute was really, really good. Really, really informative, and just backs up a lot of what we've been talking about in the last few weeks. So I would really suggest you go and watch that video. But what he said is the movement from Gusto from outside to in gives this defender a lot of sort of just tricky. He doesn't really know where to go, because if these players are sort of blocking central routes, let's just say they're here, Fofana ends up coming a bit wider as Gusto's making that movement. Fofana is the one with acres of space, because this defender now, he can't really put pressure on the ball because he's already too far off, and he's also trying to stop Gusto, but Gusto's making that later movement. So now he's in a bit of a weird position where he's got to try and, one, cut the pass off into Gusto. So he's got to be in this passing lane to stop that. He's got to, two, try and apply a little bit of pressure on the ball if he can, or at least time it that he can try and apply some pressure, unless this player is going to come over and apply the pressure for him, which again can happen at times, doesn't happen at times. And then three, does he follow Gusto all the way, because he doesn't know where he doesn't know where he's going to go, to the point where Fofana has a clear drive forwards, which again we saw a lot this season, and we spoke about this a few times. Fofana's really starting to add that to his game. Not add it because he's always had it, but we're starting to see it again since that injury, and sort of see those bursts forward, which really, really helps the team. And that would also allow very easy access into the winger to again isolate the fullbacks, which is a massive part of what this team and what this system produces. Which brings us on to the fullbacks, not the fullbacks, the wingers, because we don't know who's going to start this game. This is how I've put it up on screen. However, this is my prediction for what will happen. But what I will say is I would be more than happy, and I'm a massive Madueke guy. People know it. I think Madueke has been really good. I think people are a little bit peeved off with his end product in the last few games. I think what he does for the whole team in terms of the way we play as a unit with him in the team is hugely, hugely important. But what I wouldn't be against is taking him out and just almost challenging him a bit by taking him out of the side, putting Neto on that favoured right side to get a little bit more out of his tool set. Go watch my last live stream I did speaking about that with Neto on that right hand side. And then you could see either Sancho return to that left wing or Mudryk return. Well, not return, but go to the left. You could see either one of those, okay? Let's put it as Sancho for now, but I do think Mudryk deserves that little run in the side. The other thing, of course, to mention is Enzo's in the team here. That's what I've put him in the team. This could easily be Lavia. We don't know if both of these are going to be fit. Neither of them are going to be deemed fit. It's all going to come down to what Maresca decides is best for those two with the game coming up. But it will be, and with Lavia in training, apparently they're all in training now. Enzo, Caicedo, Palmer, Lavia, all in training. So that's a good sign. But it will be interesting to see that pairing that we go for, especially in a game like this, where Leicester, as I said, these players, they tend to drop off deep. And if these players are going to drop off deep, one other thing that I'll try to flash this up on screen now, is one other thing that Leicester do at times, is they actually drop off into more or less a 5 in the middle. And this is something we saw against Newcastle, where they're really trying to block that central line off. They really don't want that ball to go through into the pockets. But what it can leave is if that ball can be manipulated by one of the centre-backs, especially someone like a Levi Colwill, who can find someone like an Enzo, because these players don't want to commit into these spaces because that can open up this gap, what you instead find is the gaps for somebody like Enzo or Caicedo are either side of the striker in the pressing moment, if he goes here or here, leaving these guys to sort of pick up these spaces between the wingers who, as I say, don't really want to move from this plane, that line. So it's going to be really interesting to see who picks up the space where, but I do think it's going to be really key to watch how Leicester's wingers press in the moment. And I think that how the wingers press is going to massively contribute to how Chelsea can unlock this Leicester side and start to sustain their possession and then just get into a rhythm of playing their own game. So it's going to be really interesting. Fatawu, probably their best winger, is out. It's another thing. He's out. So that's the other thing to keep an eye on is who's going to start in that role. Because Fatawu, he offers a very good wide dueling. He's very fast on the break. He's often their out ball in terms of, again, when they win the ball back, can you get going quickly? He's often that out ball for them. It was last season, him and Mavididi. So It'll be very, very interesting to see how they set up without him because he's been so important. And I think, as I say, I think these wingers for Chelsea or for Leicester against Chelsea are going to be the key in this game. So let's see how that goes. Does Enzo Fernandez start? Does Neto start on the right? And what was the last thing? Who do we see on the left? Those are the three questions I want you to answer in the comments down below before tomorrow's kickoff. So, who plays on the right? Who plays on the left? Who plays in the pivot? Will Enzo Fernandez get a start? Drop a like if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys for the review after the game, the things we learned from Chelsea versus Leicester. That will probably come out either Saturday afternoon or Sunday. So make sure you're here for that. Drop a like if you haven't already, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.